I will open the public hearing for the application of James and Grace Hoffman for a special permit under sections 6.1.2 and 7.5.2 of the zoning bylaw and or other relief as may be necessary to raise a single-family residence on a non-conforming lot and construct a new single-family residence and garage which conforms with all setback and coverage requirements at 17 Eagle Head Road, Assessors Map number 13, lot number 42 in District E, filed with the town clerk on March 13th, 2023. Now I'll recognize Mr. Gillespie.
Okay, I am Mark Glovsky, here tonight representing Jim and Grace Hoffman, who are in California. They are the owners of the property at 17 Eagle Head Road. Also with us tonight via Zoom, I suspect, are Tom Murdo and Michelle Shaheen. They are the architects for the project from Murdo Design in Concord, Massachusetts. Also with us tonight, I believe, are Todd Richardson and or Micah Franzman, who are the landscape architects from Richardson and Associates in Saco, Maine. And as you know, Jay Polakowitz is here with me. He's the project engineer from Hancock Associates. We applied for the relief that we're requesting pursuant to the old section 6.1.2. But when I went online today to prepare for tonight's meeting, I discovered that the new zoning ordinance has been posted on the town's website and it's renumbered sections. So the old section 6.1.2 is now the new section 7.2. However, the language of the sections is unchanged. We're still here asking for a permit to raise and reconstruct a single-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot. And the test is relatively simple in a situation like this. If what we're proposing increases the non-conforming nature of the property, then the responsibility of this board is to determine whether what we're proposing would be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming situation. And before we get into the specifics of the project, I would just tell you that the Hoffmans acquired the property in September of 2022. Since then, they've been working hard to design a project that's appropriate for the site. They've been in conversation with neighbors. They've had a good team of professionals supporting the project. And as you can see from what's been filed, it's, in my estimation, a very attractive project. We are in zoning district E. The nonconformities are not just lot size, which is the fact that we're a 73,000 plus square foot lot versus the 90,000 square feet required. Additionally, we have no frontage. The lot is accessed by a private way. The lot was approved in the 1950s by the planning board, and it is non-conforming. It's a situation where customarily 150 feet of frontage would have been required. There's another existing non-conformity, and that has to do with the existing house, which is located 13 feet approximately from the westerly boundary line when 20 feet would have been required. The new project, as we stated earlier, is going to comply in all respects with the dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw. And we will eliminate that side yard setback problem. The property is currently improved with a 1950s house that wasn't constructed to withstand coastal conditions. Those of you who attended the site visit saw that it's in a fairly dilapidated condition. I think its life has been well lived. At this point, I think what would be appropriate would be for Tom Murdo or Michelle Shaheen to explain in brief terms the nature of the project, what they're proposing to build on the site.
Mr. Murdo or Mr. Shaheen?
Hello, I'm Tom Murdo. I'm one of the architects working on the project. This is Michelle. So basically what we're proposing is to make a fully conforming building. So the building is, the existing structure is non-conforming on the setback on the west side. The new building observes the west yard setback. The building in its entirety is conforming with all the setbacks. The building itself is composed of three sort of vernacular volumes, basically gabled structures, and will be so it's two of those structures are composed of the primary living space, the residence, and then the third gabled volume is a garage with a guest suite on the second floor. Additionally, we pulled the building back from the coast, and while that does not really affect the zoning setbacks, we do think that that's responsible in terms of just being observant of the coastline. So the building is we have a footprint of 4,090 square feet. I don't have the existing footprint, but the existing footprint is smaller than that, but we feel that this is a responsible and sort of contextual solution that fits the site.
Thank you.
Yep.
In the course of preparing for tonight's meeting, the Hoffmans did a fair amount of neighborhood outreach. They wanted to be as transparent as they could be. From the very beginning, we've been sharing plans and information with neighbors. In response to concerns that the Hoffmans heard, they have modified the plan slightly since the original filing by eliminating basement space that would likely have caused the need for blasting. And Jay can speak specifically about the changes that were made to reduce the basement area of the house and what the consequences are likely to be.
So I'm just gonna hop over here to my plan.
Could you just state your full name for the record?
Sorry, Jay Blackwood's Hancock Associates.
Thank you.
Thank you. So over here is the site plan that we have prepared for this. In pink is the property lines, green is the setback lines, orange is the existing house, and blue is the proposed house. This portion of the existing house has a basement, while the remaining portion has a crawl space. Originally, we had proposed to have a basement throughout the entire proposed house. That has been modified so that only this portion here has a basement. And that is in line generally with where the existing basement is, meaning that there won't be significant amounts of excavation needed for the proposed basement. We talked to the local contractor who is doing the site work, and he says that blasting shouldn't be needed for this amount of excavation.
Thank you. Although this is not a special permit use, there's always been some confusion with the zoning board, I think, because there are two kinds of special permits. There are uses that are identified in the zoning bylaw that specifically require a special permit from the zoning board or the planning board in order to conduct that use. And that is different from situations that are governed by Chapter 40A, Section 6, which deals with non-conforming properties. as I said earlier, the standard in a situation like this is generally to determine whether what's being proposed would be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity. However, this board has traditionally applied the criteria that's also used for special permit uses. And your application requests the applicant to respond to that list of criteria that were in the former section 7.5 of the zoning bylaw, and that's now section 12.5 of the Manchester zoning bylaw. And I'm just gonna run through that criteria list very quickly. First item is whether the site of the project is appropriate in terms of its size for the proposed use. And we are respectfully suggesting that the property's been improved and used without adverse effects for single-family purposes since the 1950s, and consequently, it seems to be perfectly adequate. Second, whether it's suitable again, we're saying it's sufficiently sized and configured to enable us to relocate improvements in the property that will be consistent with the dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw. Third item is whether there would be an impact on traffic flow and safety. And what we're suggesting is that it's going to be a single-family house that will probably generate the same amount of traffic as the prior house. The rule used to be that the average 4-bedroom single-family house generated 10 vehicle trips a day. I don't know whether that's changed, but in any case, it will be minimal when spread throughout the day. Next item is whether there will be impact on the neighborhood's visual character, including views and vistas. And we think that what Tom Murdo has designed is going to be more consistent with the character of the neighborhood than what's currently there. And we think it's perfectly appropriate for Eagle Head and for the town of Manchester. Next is the question of adequate sewage disposal and sources of water and drainage. As you know, there's going to be a new Title V compliant septic system installed to serve the new house. So to the extent that the old system was inadequate, the new system will be state-of-the-art. With respect to drainage, Hancock Engineering has come up with a plan that assures that there won't be adverse effects from runoff. There's as Jay can explain if need be, there's going to be a rain garden, there are drainage controls, and there shouldn't be any problems whatsoever. Utilities are not going to change, they're still there and they're adequate. Last question is the effect on wildlife habitats and natural resources. That'll actually be positive. As you have seen from the materials we submitted, Richardson and Associates is contemplating removal of a significant amount of invasive species from the site, and all those invasive species are going to be replaced with with appropriate natural materials, and it will certainly be an enhanced property when the project is completed. Consequently, we think it's clear that we satisfy the criteria that have historically been applied for special permits in an instance like this. However, as I mentioned, the test remains whether the proposal is going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what's there now. And with all due respect, I'd say that's not the case. And to support what I'm saying, we have submitted to the board, I actually emailed it today because we got the last signature, but we submitted an assessor's map that shows almost all of the abutters having signed a petition in support of the project, with the exception of Mrs. Colburn, who's here tonight and who wanted to wait, I think, and hear for herself and maybe ask questions. So she was satisfied that she wasn't going to be adversely affected by the project, but I certainly can't speak for her. So that's our presentation, and I respectfully reserve the right to rebut anything that we might hear.
Thank you. James, do you have any questions?
I don't. This is all very clearly presented, and thank you for your descriptions.
Jim?
The only thing I noticed is the new chimney will be actually over the setback.
That's allowed.
That's allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was probably because he didn't have any choice in the matter, knowing how the lot narrows down there, but I just noticed that. Now, it wasn't clear to me when you were up at your Mac. The existing basement is under the portion of the old house that would be on the left-hand side is looking at that drawing? Because the two colors you mentioned, I couldn't see them from here.
You want me to pull the plane closer?
That would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be helpful if it had been included. Oh, okay, I see the
So
orange now. Got
This
it?
is the existing house. I showed the deck as well.
Right.
That was something that we discussed yesterday. So this portion of the house, it's kind of the main part. This has the basement in it. The basement that we're proposing is generally in this area here.
Okay,
So the central portion of the house is where the proposed basement will be.
all right. So you're going to put up some foundation wall into the old basement hole?
Yeah, basically we're trying to keep it within the basement
Got it.
excavation.
Okay. Understood?
Yep.
No questions.
Okay.
Brian, do you have any questions?
No, I think it's well presented and it appears self-explanatory.
Mrs. Colburn, do you have some questions? If so, please state your name and address for the record.
Frances Colburn, 185 Summer Street, right here.
Okay.
And certainly there's no doubt that the house is going to be more attractive than what's there. We have conservation easements saying that we cannot add on to, say, our garage or the house or whatever. And the only thing that I find difficult about this is not this particular, I mean, not what they're actually doing, because it is very attractive and all that, but just the fact that you're allowed, or they would be allowed, or anybody is allowed in Manchester, really it's that, to add on when you're in the 250 feet of the water and whatever that one is. I mean, it's just more, it's more a general objection to it than it is a specific, because it is definitely nicer than what's there. And that's my only problem.
Yeah, and we thank you for that input. I think that with respect to the coastal buffers, that is really under the purview of the conservation.
Okay, well, they don't,
Commission.
okay, and they didn't seem to, well, they're still gonna have a site visit and
Right.
go
yeah,
on, but they didn't seem to be, okay.
The zoning board of appeals is concerned with respect to the fact it's a non-conforming lot,
Right,
but it already had a structure on it, and also concerned with respect to the setbacks and the zoning setbacks, and they're improving
yeah,
that because they're no longer in the side setback that there was before, so.
and so going back doesn't matter to you?
No, we-
Extending backwards
Right, we're
and
also.
covering the driveway. Yeah.
We're also concerned about coverage by structures and impervious surface.
Yeah.
And under the application submitted to us, it used to be, the structures used to be 5.13%, and it's now 10%, which is well below what's allowed in the bylaw. And the total coverage by structures and impervious is, 15%, which is substantially lower than what's allowed. And it appears as if that they're trying to retain as much pervious surface as they can.
If I may, I just might
Yes, Mr.
respond a little bit to what Mrs. Coburn
Yes.
suggested. The buffer zone, as I understand it, is 100 feet from the coastal bank,
Oh, okay.
actually. But as Jay explained at the site visit, the Hoffmans are actually pulling the house back from the coastal bank and extending it further in the other direction. So to the extent that the house is currently within that 100-foot area, it's going to be less intrusive after the project than before the project.
And do you mind if I add something to that as well?
Go ahead, Jed.
So there's the coastal bank on the southern side of the site, but on the northern side of the site, there's a wetland, both of which are resource areas. About 90% of the site's within a resource area buffer zone. There's a very small portion outside of it. If we were to push the house back from the coastal bank, then we would be getting closer to the wetland, again, both of which are resource areas, so.
There's
Difficult
not a
lot.
lot of room.
There's not a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah.
Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to be heard on this application? If so, please speak up.
Well, as the applicant, Jim Hoffman, I would just like to express my appreciation for everybody on the committee that, takes the time to review these proposals and tries to make Manchester by the Sea endure as a great place to live, and we certainly want to do everything in our power to uphold kind of the quality of the structures built and respect the coastline, the wetlands, and all of our neighbors on Eagle Head. So thank you very much for considering our proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Anyone else? Any more questions from the board?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Because there's only 4 of us, I'll kind of take a straw sense of the board before I make a motion.
I'm good.
Okay. With that, I move to close the public hearing and approve the application of James and Grace Hoffman for a special permit under sections 7.2 and 12.5 of the zoning bylaw to raise an existing single-family residence on a non-conforming lot and construct a new single-family residence and garage which meet all setback, coverage, and maximum height requirements of the district at 17 Eagle Head Road, Assessors Map number 13, Lot number 42 in District E, filed with the town clerk on March 13th, 2023, based on a finding that the proposed use is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the bylaw, and the proposed replacement residence and garage will not be more detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood in which it's located than the existing residential structure, and the requirements conditions under section 12.5 of the zoning bylaw for the grant of a special permit have been met, based on the condition that the structures constructed meet all setback, coverage, and height restrictions in District E, and are situated in accordance with the following plans created by Hancock Associates dated March 10th, 2023. C2 notes and legend sheet, C4 layout and materials, and A 1.11 site plan enlarged. Do I have a second?
Second.
Brian seconds. Any discussion?
Second?
Brian seconded.
Oh, that's what I said. You said you needed something else?
No, I'm just asking if there's any more discussion.
No, I think it's a beautiful design.
Okay. I'll take a roll call vote. Brian,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
James,
Approved.
and Sarah votes yes. You're all set. And the only thing I would caution you is if the Conservation Commission makes you adjust the location of the structures, you would need to come back to us for a modification of the special permit.
Okay.
So we can see.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
It's about the blasting, which is really the thing that was making us nervous. If they do decide there's blasting, do they have to come back to you
No,
No, so because our house
There
does,
there are strict rules with respect to blasting that would have to be complied with. The Hoffmans are gonna do whatever they can to avoid blasting.
Yeah.
And that they've talked to Ladd Construction, I believe, and made a preliminary determination that
They
based on the revised plans, there won't be a need for blasting. However, if there is blasting,
yeah,
then there's an obligation to notify abutters, to do video,
a pre-site, a pre-blasting
a
video
pre-blast survey, thank you.
of our
I'm
house,
struggling.
inside,
If you,
Yes.
if you want it done,
and they would have to do it
they
for
would,
us.
they would do it.
and they also put, seismographs on site. I just happen to have it done
And
next to
and
my
they have a
house,
warning,
so.
they have a warning system before the blast,
Yeah,
and it's very well regulated.
because our house does move a little sometimes, so I'm
But
assuming.
we are on a big fault, you know.
Yeah, exactly, so I'm assuming if there's blasting, it's gonna move a little more. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so you're all set? Decision will be written within, oh, that's the thing I forgot.
Yes,
I can write it. Who would like to review it?
probably good.
Jim will review it.
God
Okay.
bless you both.
What did you say, Brian?
Said God bless you both. Yeah, Mark, right?
Okay.
Some communities do that.
I know. I wouldn't offer you up if I didn't think it's here.
Okay, we're gonna move on to administrative matters.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
And hopefully everybody will get the right zoning ordinance.
Yeah, when do you think they're gonna start?
It's a fluke.
I'm not totally sure what the start date is in Mississippi.
You're putting it down.
Yeah, I'm not too sure when the start date is, I'm sure they take that email.
Mrs. Colburn, before they tear down the structure, they apply for a building permit,
Oh, okay.
a demo permit, and the permits are online. So
Are they in the cricket?
They're not in the Cricket, but you can go into the Manchester webpage.
Yeah.
And there's a section for building permits, and you can click on it, and you can search on the location.
Okay.
Which at least, but I would hope that the Hoffmans will let me know.
I think there will.
We didn't know about I only knew about the thing in the, reading it in the cricket.
You got what? The conservation,
Yeah,
this meeting?
and the conservation. Fine, well, you sent it, but it was after it was in the cricket. Yeah.
You should have received a certified letter. I'll hand it.
We'll move on to
yes.
minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. The ones from January 25th, which I think I sent some amendments out on Tuesday. People have a chance to look at that,
I looked at, I didn't attend that meeting,
okay?
so
I wasn't
Brian,
I wasn't looking for spelling or punctuation. The substance was fine.
okay?
Got
Jim,
it.
I used the draft minutes to write a decision, so I'm good with it.
okay. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from January 25th?
Yes.
James, yes. Brian seconds. Take a vote.
Yes.
Brian, James, Sarah, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next is the meeting of March 15th. I looked at those and they looked fine to me. Did other people have a
Again,
chance?
I looked at them, I wasn't checking for, that's Catherine's job.
They
check
looked
for
okay.
spelling.
They looked okay?
I just saw them today, they look fine.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 15th?
So moved.
Brian moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
James seconds. Roll call vote. Brian?
Yes.
Jim? James?
Yes.
And Sarah votes yes. So all of the decisions from prior to the March 15th meeting have been filed. So we just have the ones from March. So that's good, okay? Anything else?
World's fastest meeting. I'm gonna set a record.
I know.
Yeah, I do have a question for
Yeah.
you. As you know, my term expires at the end of June.
Yes,
Would you like me to remain as an alternate? Or do you have enough people lined up that it won't be necessary? and you don't have to tell me now. I'll
Okay.
simply say that if
Okay.
it's your wish, or if you need it, I'm happy to do it, because I'm familiar with the process and it's not an issue. But we probably have to clear it with somebody in town hall.
Right, yeah. So your term is up this year, and you're not staying on?
Unfortunately, yeah, I'm so overcommitted.
Okay, yeah.
And Brian's leaving too, I think.
I was, well,
What?
You want this going out, or are we clear,
No, not quite yet.
Not
Okay.
quite.
We gotta finish
or? Just
this.
making sure.
Okay.
I was gonna, I wanted to move back into an alternates position. I'll
Right.
stay on, I mean, if, you know.
So Sean would become
John would move up to.
a full member,
but
and then we have an application from,
Rob Scott, this is
right,
Rob Scott's. But I know that James.
right.
And then Catherine was indicating a desire to get up if she.
Well, she's still in her
Okay,
term,
and
so
then-
we need to
and
work
then
towards,
John, if he,
he's staying on.
okay.
So you're covered.
Well, we might need you as second alternate until we can find somebody.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah, and have the new application be a full-time member, so you can be an alternate. Okay. Should we adjourn the meeting?
Sounds good, yes.
Yes.
Move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Okay, you can shut us down.
Next meeting.